Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Huck. Today I am talking about my 2020 TBR. So these are the top 10 books that I want to read this year. So the first book is actually two books because they're in the same series. And this is kind of rolling over from last year, which is the Tawny Man trilogy by Robin Hobb. So I read the first book in 2019. My intention had been to read the whole series, but that didn't happen. So we're gonna try and do it this year. So the next book would be Golden Fool, and the book after that is Fool's Fate. And I'm kind of counting these as one because they're part of the same trilogy, but I would really like to get to these this year and just complete this trilogy in 2020. And this is the third series in the realm of the Elderlings, and this is one where we are kind of going back to following Fitz and the Fool, catching up with them some years later after the events of the Farseer trilogy, where now they are like full adults. The next book on this list is one that I feel like recently I've been talking about it a lot, which is The Lies of Locke Lamora by Scott Lynch. This is the first book in the Gentleman Bastard sequence, and it's one that I've just heard so many good things about. It follows Locke and I think his best friend, who I don't remember the name of, and I've just heard that it has really great like found family, and you just love this like band of thieves who all work together, and I've also heard that it's like very clever in the way that they do the heist, and then it has kind of a non-linear storytelling with flashbacks and stuff, which is something I'm discovering I actually really like in books, so I'm interested to see how that is done in this one. I also recently have really been enjoying heists, and so I'm really like excited about this. I've just heard that people love these characters so much and get so attached to the characters and their relationships and friendships, so I'm really excited for it. Next, I have The Fifth Season by N.K. Jemisin, and this is the first book in the Broken Earth trilogy, I think it's called. And this one, again, heard so much about it. It's won all kinds of awards. It says here, winner of the Hugo Award 2016. I think this entire series has won a bunch of awards. And again, I've heard amazing things about it. People really loving the characters in it and just saying that this book is just so well done. And also, I think there's some element of like earth magic to it, which like I'm on board for any iteration of earth magic. So I'm really interested in that. This is one that has been sitting on my shelf for like 2 years and I haven't gotten to it, but I'm really interested in it. So this year, I'm gonna finally read it. Then I have Age of Myth by Michael J. Sullivan. This is the first book in the Legends of the First Empire series. And this is actually, I think, a prequel series to his, is it called Rhaeria Revelations? Is that him? For some reason my memory is failing me right now. But this is a prequel series that he wrote after the original series that he wrote, and I've heard from some people say that you can start here, some people say you should read the original series first, but I have this one, so this is where I'm going to start. And to be honest, the reason I originally bought this book was because it has the word myth and there's a tree on the cover. So that's how my decision-making process went. But I also have really been wanting to read something by Michael J. Sullivan just because I've heard really good things about his books and I've been really interested to try something by him. And also, I think this book has to do with like gods versus mortals, which is something that I just think sounds really cool. The next book on my list is Lady of the Forest by Jennifer Robertson. I think this is the first book in the Sherwood duology, and it is a Robin Hood retelling. And in my mind, I really like Robin Hood retellings, but I don't read them very often, even though I have at least 2 on my shelves, counting this right now. And so this year I would really like to read those, and this is the one that I'm actually most excited about. I just recently hauled it, and I'm also trusting that it's going to have some good like forest nature vibes because Sherwood Forest. And I'm just like really intrigued by this, and I really want to read some more Robin Hood retellings. Then I have The Library at Mount Char by Scott Hawkins, and this is a standalone that is, from what I've heard, it's one of those books that like you can't really explain. So the plot of this, from what I can tell, is that we're following this girl who has been like adopted by this mysterious man who's kind of been collecting like children from various circumstances, and he's mysterious to everybody, including them, and then he goes missing and they have to try to find him and maybe save him. But I've just heard that this is one of those kind of indescribable, genre-bending, mind-bending books, but that people really love this book. And it just sounds so interesting, and there are so many reasons that I want to read this, but two of the things that especially piqued my interest were the fact that it says that it's at a library. It's the library at Mount Char. And I'm all about a book that's at a library or is a book about books. I don't know how much this is actually going to involve books or not, but I'm hoping that it does. And then also that concept of those kind of like indescribable, genre-bending, mind-bending books is something that I've really been wanting more of, because last year one of my favorite books was one of those kinds of indescribable, genre-bending, mind-bending books, which was Middle Game by Seanan McGuire. And I don't necessarily think that these two books are going to be similar, but I'm just really intrigued by more books that are kind of described in that indescribable way. Then I have another book that has library in the title, which is The Library of the Unwritten by A.J. Hackwith, and this is about a library in hell, which has a special section of it that is dedicated to unfinished books. So those books that you start and like you never quite finish them. And there is a librarian for the Library of the Unwritten. But one day a character or a creature from one of these unwritten books escapes and starts to wreak havoc across hell. And so the librarian has to go on an adventure to hunt down this creature and bring with her her sidekick, who I think is like an ex-muse or something. This sounds like this is going to be really fun, but also a book about books. So I'm pretty excited for this. Then I have The Game of Kings by Dorothy Dunnett. This is the first book in the Lyman Chronicles, and this is, I think, historical fiction or historical fantasy. I'm not actually sure if there are fantasy elements to it. But this takes place in Scotland in the 1500s. We're following the main character who has been exiled from Scotland because he's accused of treason, and it's about him trying to clear his name and also protect his family. I've heard some things about it that really piqued my interest, and I have really been wanting to read more historical fiction or historical fantasy, so this is one that I recently got for that reason, and I just can't wait to get to it. Then I have His Majesty's Dragon by Naomi Novik. This is the first book in the Temeraire series by her, which is about the Napoleonic Wars, but if there were dragons. That's what I've gathered about this book. And I've also heard that people love the dragons in these, that they are just like so endearing, which I'm very excited about for that. And like, this is a series that I've been meaning to read for a really long time. This book has been on my TBR shelf also for like 2 years or something. I've just been meaning to read it and not getting to it. And Naomi Novik is an author that generally I like her stuff. I mean, I've only read 2 of her books, which were Uprooted and Spinning Silver, which are very different from this, but I really enjoyed both of those. So I'm really interested to try something else by her, and I think this is her only other series. So I really want to get to this because it's just been on my shelf for so long. And the 10th and final book on this list is The Halfdrowned King by Linnea Heitzeuker. And this is a book that I have no idea how to explain it to you. Because I feel like every time I read the description of this book, I think, oh, that sounds really interesting. And then I immediately forget it. I don't know why, but I know that I think this sounds like an interesting story. I think it is historical fiction, and it is Norse inspired, and it's just one that has been on my radar for a really long time, and I have been meaning to read it, and then I hauled it a few months ago, and I really want to finally read it because it's one that I've been meaning to read for a really long time, and I finally have it. So this is gonna happen in 2020. Alright, so those are all of the books that I am most excited to read in 2020, my top 10 books to read in 2020. These are ones that I also am just like really expecting to love. I think the only ones that I am a little iffy about is the Tawny Man trilogy by Robin Hobb, just because I have very mixed experience with her books. But other than that, I'm really excited about all of these and I really think I'm going to love them. Something I am trying to do in 2020 is to read the books that I'm most excited for, because I have realized that a lot of times I'll put off reading the books that I'm most excited for, the books that I really think I'm going to love for various reasons. So that's something I'm really trying to do in 2020, is to focus on and make sure I read the books that I'm most excited for, that I really think I'm going to love. And I think I'm going to love all of these. So thank you all for watching, and until next time, bye.